Hello, I'm Anna Amelia from North East Animal Rights, and today I want to talk to you about ethical veganism. So why do we need to put the word ethical in front of it now? Because after all, doesn't veganism encompass all aspects of animal exploitation? But with the explosion of veganism over the past few years, the meaning has been diluted, misused, devalued and borrowed. It's been regularly used in greenwashing or vegan washing. So for those of you who don't know what greenwashing and vegan washing means, it's where a company with poor or debatable ethics, like Unilever or Nestle, for example, will create a so-called vegan formula or plant-based formula, primarily aimed at the vegan market. But they are misleading people because obviously they aren't an ethical company, and ethics is a massive part of being vegan. Plant-based, we've talked about in the past, has been part of the diet part of being vegan, okay? And veganism is a lifestyle. So the definition from the Vegan Society is, veganism is a philosophy and a way of living which seeks to exclude, as far as possible and practicable, all forms of exploitation of and cruelty to animals for food, clothing, or any other purpose, and by extension, promotes the development and use of animal-free alternatives for the benefit of animals, humans, and the environment. In dietary terms, it refers to the practice of dispensing with all animal products derived wholly or partly from animals. So clearly from that definition, there's an ethical rule running all the way through that. Veganism isn't something you can opt in and out of. It's a mindset and a way of life. It means you may have to choose a difficult option. Speaking out, for example, when you're not that sort of person. You can't be vegan one day and then eat a dead animal the next. Neither can you be a vegan baker and cook with animal products. There's been a lot of controversy over the inclusion of a young baker who's being deemed vegan on a Great British Bake Off. However, they're using the term interchangeably, and she obviously doesn't quite understand what the term is and the lifestyle. She rides horses, and she's also using animal products in the technical challenge, and no ethical vegan would do that. However, that doesn't mean to say that she deserves all the backlash she's getting. The TV programme are clearly manipulating the situation and promoting her as a vegan baker when she isn't. But that doesn't mean to say that, she can't educate herself and, and learn from all the feedback she's getting and be an amazing advocate, because we do need really good advocates, particularly young ones in the animal rights movement. Equally, you can't be a former vegan. So these people who say they used to be a vegan, but they've gone back to eating meat, it's such a massive switch in everything you believe in. You can't suddenly start exploiting animals again or start eating them. You just weren't a vegan in the first place. Veganism is for life, literally. It's for life in more ways than one. So back to why we put the word ethical in front of this. In Section 10 of the Equality Act 2010, there is legal protection for people with a specific philosophical belief. Veganism was never specifically mentioned as a philosophical belief, but it took a landmark court case where a stall was set out and a judge ruled that ethical veganism can be described as a philosophical belief, and vegans became protected in law against discrimination. Jordi Casamichiana, who took the League Against Cruel Sports to court, you'll remember that we interviewed him a few months back, and his court case was where he was employed by the League Against Cruel Sports, and he was in ethical veganism. He's also written a really good book called The Ethical Vegan, he told them that he was ethical vegan, and he was horrified to find out that his pension funds were being invested in animal testing companies. So he made them aware of that. He wanted them to find an alternative, and rather than them find an alternative, they actually dismissed him. So he took him to an employment tribunal, and he won his case because the judge ruled that he was an ethical vegan and he was being discriminated against. We also have another more recent case, Fiji Willett. She was an 18-year-old student who signed up to college to do an animal care course, and that's exactly what she thought she was doing, a course caring for animals. What she didn't sign up for was going into farms to observe bull castration or observing animal slaughter. This isn't the type of care any vegan wants to be party to or observe. She raised concerns in October 2019, 2020, I think it was. I'm losing track of the years with the pandemic dates and everything. But she raised concerns very quickly after starting this course, and it wasn't resolved until March. The Vegan Society helped her get a case together, and she contacted the exam board, and then decided only then to offer an alternative. But even then, they're still not accepting that there had been a lack of care towards her as a student with a protected philosophical belief. So there's still a long way to go. Both of these cases show that employers, organisations like schools, for example, need to take this more seriously. No longer is it a case of vegans having to put up with it or being worried to speak out. We do have protection. There are more and more cases all the time. We are regularly contacted by people who have issues with schools or eating in hospitals, for example, and we need to make sure that we do our bit and not be the only vegan they've ever heard of. It may be uncomfortable to us, to go against the grain, but we owe it to the animals and to other vegans as well. So I want to give you some figures from an article from a survey. Linda McCartney Foods, I mean, obviously this is, the company has a vested interest in the outcome of this, but they did a survey of 1,500 pupils. 1 in 10 are already following a vegetarian or vegan diet. So, 10% of 1,500 already is quite a substantial figure. If these figures increase in the way they have been increasing over the past 5 years, by 2025, a quarter of school children will be vegan and vegetarian. 44% of those surveyed already said they were eating less meat and dairy. And 83% of their parents who were surveyed said food options at schools were limited, unappetizing, unhealthy. Cases where, we have cases where people are being fed repeatedly the same option every single day. A jacket potato with beans with no spread over and over again. That's neither appetizing nor is it healthy to be fed the same thing over and over again. So 23% of these children are going hungry for the same reason. Now, I would always say check the sources of data. They are, obviously Linda McCartney has a vested interest, as I mentioned, but there are other reports out there and surveys available, which are very, very unbiased, which will tell you very, very similar sorts of figures. But what would you do if your child is being discriminated against? So if you're a vegan family and you have a child who was being brought up vegan, and your child is suffering silently, what would you do? The easiest route really is to talk to your head of year, your head of house, or the catering manager in school, but make sure they understand that your child is an ethical vegan. They aren't plant-based, so that will encompass the full lifestyle. In the same way that we have children in school who follow halal diet, kosher diet, because they have religious reasons to follow them. We have children who have medical reasons, gluten-free, celiac, for example, or those with allergens. The school already has a legal obligation to provide for these. They also have a legal obligation to provide for your vegan child as well. And if you're getting no way through speaking through, your first layer of authority in the school, which is your head of year, the catering manager, then speak to the head teacher. And after that, speak to the chair of governors or the chief exec if it's an academy trust. But get support as well from outside organisations like Vegan Inclusive Education. If you Google them on the internet, they are a really, really good source of information, and they will give you loads of information about how to make this approach in your school. But also contact places like Viva and Animal Aid. They have some fantastic resources for schools. But get them to help you, help them help you, because they may not understand, this is relatively new for them. And although veganism has been around a number of years, in terms of the explosion in numbers of children doing this, help them help you. Make sure they understand the key differences between veganism and plant-based, and also the protections you have in law. Remind them that they are obliged to provide an inclusive environment for all pupils, not just in the dietary sense. So look at things like school trips, trips to zoos, trips to farms, craft sessions where they may be using things like feathers, and hatching projects in schools, which are a pet hate of mine. And make sure that they are doing something which is inclusive of all, rather than excluding your child or having to find an alternative. They should be looking for something which can include all children. If you're an employee or a volunteer and you have a problem in your organisation, you need to make sure that your line manager knows that you're an ethical vegan, your HR department, if you don't, if you need to take it a little bit further, but make sure that they know exactly what the definition means. Show them the definition and show them the protection and laws that you have. You're obliged to, again, in the same way that children are protected, to provide food options, food alternatives, and making sure that it should be straightforward. And you should not be feeling uncomfortable asking for it either. You need to keep your sense of humour as an adult in a work environment. You need to be firm, you need to be relentless, and you need to be resilient as well. This is your right to not be discriminated against, but they should also be aware of the fact that they are breaking the law if they are discriminated against you. If you get invited to a staff barbecue, personally, my stance would be to refuse it, but tell them why. Some vegans would be relatively comfortable going to a barbecue as long as there are plant-based alternatives there and they are well away from all the smells. Personally, I would find that pretty horrendous. I would not do that. But that's your option to do that, your prerogative. Ask for a whole staff event which is more vegan friendly, food which is not going to be sort of like, casting loads of smells over everyone and not being cooked in front of you. Food which is, they do have several plant-based options. If you're asked to take part in a Grand National sweepstake, refuse politely, but tell them why. Tell them you think it's cruel, and tell them that, give them some information about the Grand National and other horse racing events. Staying silent doesn't do the animals any good. And again, get support from groups and individuals. organisations like, for example, for us, North East Animal Rights, we'd be more than happy to help. Or Animal Aid, Viva, there's lots of organisations out there who would be more than happy to help you to put your case forward, or to give you some facts so you feel stronger, going along as an individual and talking to someone in authority in your organisation. So if someone is making you feel, if they are excluding you deliberately, or they're making you feel uncomfortable, they are discriminating against you. But it's important that you don't jump to the wrong conclusion. They just may not be aware of it. Talk to them about it first of all. Tell them and educate them. Give us as many facts, and give them also as many ways to help them, help you as well as possible. Things like food which is accidentally vegan. Easy ways in which they can include you. Give them some ideas and options. It's always the easiest way to do it, rather than them let you go and state your case. I'm an ethical vegan and I need you not to discriminate against me, and then you go away. Tell them ways in which you can help them. You help them, helping you, but you're also helping other vegans and actually the animals as well, because you're putting plant-based food out there, you're putting your vegan lifestyle out there, and people are more aware of what you were doing, what you were about. Speaking up can be hard, but you owe it to yourself, you owe it to your child, if you have a vegan child in school, and other vegans, and of course the animals who you're speaking out against. You're speaking out for, should I say, you're speaking out to advocate for the animals, and to make sure that everybody knows how easy it is to access a kinder lifestyle. So I hope this has been useful to you. Thank you very much for listening. If you like our work, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please follow our pages over social media, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook, and share and like our posts, or click on our Linktree bio in our About page on our social media. But thank you very much. This is Anna from North East Animal Rights, signing off now, talking about ethical veganism and how you can be an ethical vegan and promote our cause. Okay, so bye for now and have a lovely day.